Everyone. So tonight we're going to continue verses 9 to 11. So does anyone remember what the last section was about? 4 to 8. Yeah. Anyone remember what that was about?
Is it?
4 to 8. Okay, so the last section was about the inconceivable Lord, and he can only be known by the Maha Bhagavat or by a pure devotee. So there was a discussion in those 5 verses of how the Lord is only perceivable by someone who's extremely advanced. And what is his inconceivable position? So tonight we're going to go from verses 9 till 11. And 9 to 11 discuss comparing the cultivation of vidya and avidya, or knowledge and nescience, the difference between transcendental knowledge and ignorance.
Casey, can you hear me?
So
I can't hear you.
You can't, I can hear you. Why can't you hear me? Yeah, I'm not sure, Tully, because, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's not working, because, can you hear me, Shauna?
I can.
Okay, and Vishnujan, that they can hear.
Julia,
Not
you've
sure,
got
yeah,
your
I really
little
don't know.
thing on the
What's that?
bottom that's got like a microphone speaker. Does that look on to you?
Yeah, because if it wasn't on, you wouldn't be able to hear me. So yeah, the mutes, I'll just turn the mute off and on quickly. Is that better? Can you hear me, Atoya? Yeah, I'm not sure why, but I'll have to keep going. Okay, so verses 9 to 11, discussing the difference between ignorance and knowledge, or vidya and avidya. So if you have any questions as we go, then you can ask. Antam tama pravishyanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya uvidyayam rataha. Those who engage in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So, Prabhupada says in the opening paragraph, this mantra offers a comparative study of vidya and avidya. Avidya is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. So, to have knowledge is transcendental knowledge, or bona fide knowledge is the gift of the disciplic succession, where from our tradition, from our gurus, going right back to time immemorial, we're receiving transcendental knowledge. That is the gift of the disciplic succession, so that we can understand things properly. We can differentiate, and the Bhagavatam begins in the first verse saying, the Bhagavatam is spoken to differentiate between sat and asat, or that which is temporary and that which is permanent. That's why we have knowledge, because we always get bewildered by the impermanent. What is impermanent? Then that's what we identify with. That's the definition of Maya. Maya means that which is not. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains that when we're in Maya, we think that things that give us distress will give us happiness. and things that will give us happiness will give us distress. Everything is upside down for one who lacks knowledge. So that's the difference between sat and asat. Sat means that which is permanent. Asat means that is that which is temporary. So when we're in Maya, then we think that the temporary things will be permanent, and we think the temporary things will give us happiness. Whereas when we're in knowledge, we understand that the impermanent things cannot give us happiness, and permanent things will give us happiness. So Prabhupada explains in the opening that avidya is undoubtedly dangerous. If people don't have knowledge, it's very dangerous. And you see in modern society, there's no knowledge. And what's the result? It's dangerous. They're killing themselves and everyone else with them, right? And that's dangerous because of a lack of knowledge. So Prabhupada points out that avidya is very dangerous, but even more dangerous is having knowledge, but when it's mistaken or misguided, which is, we also see that in the world these days. There's so many spiritual philosophies around that teach us that God is impersonal or everything is one. Prabhupada said that is the last snare of Maya. If Maya can't get you with sense gratification, then Maya will get you with bogus philosophy, improper philosophy. You can be God. You can merge into God. You can be one with God. And we hear this going around. But these books, these ancient teachings that we study, very clearly tell us that no, we cannot be God. How can you be God? Ishwaraham Maham Bogi Siddhaham Balavan Susi. God is the Ishwara and the Bogi. He's the enjoyer and he's the controller. We can control nothing, right? Can't even control our own body, right? The body can just do anything in any time. It just breaks down. You've got no control. So what can we control? So we're not God. And people say, well, we are God, but we've just forgotten we're God and we just have to realize again. Well, if you're so godly, then what's going on with you right now? Oh, I just temporarily fell into illusion, but then I'll remember I'm God. But that's not the definition of God. The definition of God is one who is sthana or permanent, who is always enlightened. So, even more dangerous than ignorance is improper knowledge. When you know something, but you only partially know it, or you don't completely understand it, that's even more dangerous. And there's so many spiritual traditions now that don't have any proper knowledge. And that's more dangerous for the world. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, as far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and that forgetfulness of this fact is called ignorance. So Krishna owns everything. Everything is meant for Krishna's pleasure. What's the first verse? The invocation mantra and then the first verse. What does it teach us? Yeah, he's the proprietor of everything. What is the Sanskrit? The Ishavasha verse. You know the Ishavasha verse? Your exam's going to probably be in about 3 weeks, so maybe learn, learn your verses.
That one.
No, the next one, Ishavasha. Idam Sava. Yeah. Yeah, you better learn both of them if you want to do well on your exams. You got 3 weeks. I mean, we've been going 4 or 5 weeks already, so try to get your verses down. It's up to you. It depends how well you want to do on the exam.
Where are these verses?
Where are the verses? They're in the book that we're studying. The invocation mantra, Om Purnam, and the first verse, which is called the Ishavasha verse.
Okay. And what form does the exam take?
There's a closed book, and you'll also have a written essay.
Right.
Open book as well.
Scary.
Yeah, good. Welcome to Hare Krishna Valley. So we see that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. That is knowledge. That's knowledge. Everything belongs to Krishna, right? When you try to take something that belongs to Krishna, that's ignorance. And you get the reaction. Everyone is suffering in this material world. And everyone says, oh, why am I suffering? Because you're taking that which doesn't belong to you. When you take something that doesn't belong to you, then you will be punished. That's the law of nature. So that is karma. So one who understands that Krishna has the knowledge that Krishna owns everything, he doesn't take Krishna's property. Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says someone who steals his property is called stena. Stena means thief, and he will be punished. Sava kilbishai means he creates sinful reactions, and those reactions cause suffering for the living entity. So Krishna is saying, understand I am the proprietor. Don't take something which doesn't belong to you. Otherwise you will suffer. And the third paragraph, Prabhupada says, all the activities of the karmis are more or less based on the satisfaction of the senses, to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness described in the first mantra. So the Vedas teach us about two principles, Shreyas and Preyas. Preyas means short-term satisfaction. Shreyas means long-term satisfaction. So one who is wise, he gives up short-term satisfaction. And he aims for long-term satisfaction. Long-term satisfaction means spiritual satisfaction, because the satisfaction you get from the material world is temporary. It is short-term. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, that short-term satisfaction cannot satisfy the soul. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, from the highest planet in the material world, Abrahmana Bhuvana Loka, to the lowest planet, all are places of suffering, wherein repeated birth and death take place. So one who is wise, he doesn't focus on short-term satisfaction, but rather aims for long-term satisfaction, or the Param Gati. Param Gati means the destination which is beyond this world, which is the spiritual sky. In paragraph 4, Prabhupada says, any education that does not lead to realization of the spiritual values of the soul must be considered avidya. By the culture of such Nisians, one goes down to the darkest region of ignorance. So it's a very strong statement. Prabhupada makes very strong statements. Prabhupada, he would say, he met Professor Kotovsky in Moscow. Prabhupada only went to Moscow once. And when he went there, he met Professor Kotovsky, because Prabhupada always liked to meet intellectuals. They'd always bring them to Prabhupada. In Melbourne also, he met some priests and professors and things like that. Prabhupada would like to speak to them. So he went to Russia, and there's a famous conversation he has with Professor Kotovsky. And he was the head of Indian studies in one of the universities of Moscow. And Prabhupada said, what happens to your soul after death? And Kotovsky said to Prabhupada, Swamiji, after death, there is nothing. When the body dies, there is nothing. Prabhupada was amazed. This is the head of the Department of Indian Studies at the university. He doesn't even understand spiritual knowledge. So this is complete ignorance. So Prabhupada, he would say, where is the department in the university that teaches spiritual knowledge? How come we don't have these kind of courses in the universities? You go to university, study Upanishads, get a degree in Bhagavad Gita, get a degree in spiritual knowledge, spiritual science. So it's not there all over the world. So Prabhupada is filling in the vacuum, or the vacant hole, which is there in this material civilization. And Prabhupada has created ISKCON for that purpose. Prabhupada said the temples are education centers. This temple we're in now, it's an education center. Like I said, I think the first week, one of the first things I did when I got here, I got all the books. Why? Because it's for education. This is what we're meant to be doing here, educating ourselves, learning about higher knowledge. Otherwise, what's the point? Otherwise, we're no better than karmis. We're just materialists. And that's what happens. And Prabhupada would point this out. If you don't study his books, you'll just become overwhelmed by material consciousness. And we see, and I've said that many times, devotees always say, oh, I'm struggling and I find it hard. And and we always say to those, are you reading Prabhupada's books? Oh, no, not so much. Not that. Then, of course, you're going to struggle. Because if you read Prabhupada's books, you won't struggle so much. You'll be fixed. Prabhupada said every day, 1 hour, 2 hours. He said to my Guru Maharaj in 1977, Prabhupada was in Vrindavan and he's preparing to leave this world. And my spiritual master, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, was serving Prabhupada as one of his servants. And he said that, he'd only sleep 6 hours a night, get up, chant his rounds, eat, very quickly, take his bath several times a day. He said the rest of the time just serving Prabhupada. So it's a very busy schedule. He's with Prabhupada all the time. And then Prabhupada said to him one time in 1977, Prabhupada said, are you reading my books? And he just looked at Prabhupada bewildered. And he just looked at Prabhupada like, Prabhupada, I don't have time. Prabhupada said, then reduce your eating and sleeping. You have time to eat. You have time to sleep. Reduce that. Then you'll find 1 or 2 hours a day to read Prabhupada's books. And, he just looked at Prabhupada in amazement. He was already sleeping only 6 hours a night. And then Prabhupada said, it requires practice. Prabhupada only slept 2 hours a night. He'd go to bed at 10 o'clock or 10:30, get up at 12, 12:30. And then during the day, he'd rest 1 or 2 hours. So 3 to 4 hours a day rest. I can't survive on that. I need about 7 hours sleep. If I go to bed, 10 o'clock, I can get up at 5 o'clock. I go to bed at 9 o'clock, I can get up at 4 o'clock. That's enough. But then, sleeping 2 hours a night, I couldn't maintain that. But Prabhupada, he said that if we do reduce our material activities, then we'll have time to read his books. We can't make excuses. There is time, but we just have to reduce our material activities. In paragraph 5, Prabhupada says, it is said that the Vedic goal is to know Krishna. But these Vada Rata men are not at all interested in Krishna. On the contrary, they are fascinated by the fruitive results, by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven, etc. So Krishna speaks about this, the Veda Vada Rata, in the Bhagavad Gita, in several places. Bewildered by the flowery words of the Vedas. You can go to Swaga. You can go to heaven. It's much better than anything here on earth. There are planets that we can go to, which are much better than Earth, much, much better, much more pleasant than Earth. And people think that's the goal of life. And it's kind of like that's what material people think. They think that's the goal of life. I just want to enjoy my senses. Whereas those who actually understand the Vedas understand that short-term goal of trying to enjoy the senses, it will be taken away from us. Even if you go to the highest planet, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you'll come down again. You can go to Swaga, to heaven, but you'll come back again. And then you have to begin the process again. So better, the Vedas teach us to go back to the spiritual world, back to Goloka Vrindavan once and for all. Paragraph 6, Prabhupada says, as stated in Mantra 1, we should know that God is the proprietor of everything, and we should be satisfied with the necessities of life. Ishavasya principle. Please learn this verse. Ishavasya. Just be satisfied with your quota. Don't want more, don't want more. You know, Krishna gives enough for all of us, so be satisfied with that. Some people, they just want more and more and more. But that won't give satisfaction to the soul. So whatever Krishna gives us, then just be satisfied with that. In paragraph 7, Prabhupada says, the so-called Vijaratas are condemned herein because they do not know the actual purpose of the Vedas due to their disobeying the Acharyas. It's a very important point. No? We cannot disobey the Acharyas. No? Prabhupada said there is a three-way checking system in spiritual life. Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Shastra means the teachings, the scriptures, like the Upanishad, what we're reading now. So we have the Shastra, and then we have the Guru, the teachers, and then we have the Acharyas, the previous Acharyas, and the Sadhus, those who live amongst us. That is our three-way checking system to keep us on track in spiritual life. Because sometimes we may deviate, because we're not studying the Shastra, and then the Guru and the Sadhus will keep us on track. That's the system. So we need to follow always the three that will keep us all fixed in devotional service. So it says here that ignorance means you don't follow the acharyas. You don't follow their teachings. And when you don't follow their teachings, you will suffer. So we have to follow what's been taught by our predecessors. That's why whenever you come into our temples, you see on the altar, we have the gurus going back into the past. All the way back 500 years. And we go back to the ancient teachers, the acharyas. And everything we do in our life is based upon their teachings. The teachings of Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, all the great teachers from the past. Then in paragraph 8, Prabhupada says, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. What verse is that from the Bhagavad Gita? When we get to the Bhagavad Gita, you will need to learn it. The one about learning from a guru. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. It's one of the most famous verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said, at one time apparently, he said, it is the most important verse. 4. Yeah. What's it? 434. Just after 433. 434. Chapter 4 is called? Yeah, transcendental knowledge. So what's the best way to achieve transcendental knowledge? You need a guru. If you don't have guru, how will you understand? What will you understand? So therefore you need guru. So, as it says here, the best way to understand, you have to approach the gurus. They will give you transcendental knowledge. When you have transcendental knowledge, then your life becomes perfect. You understand everything as it is. In the 9th paragraph, Prabhupada says, the Maya Yapurita Gyanis think that they are God, and that there is no reason to worship any other God. They will worship an ordinary man if he is rich, but never the personality of Godhead. So this is what happens when you have avidya or improper vidya, kaitava dharma. Kaitava dharma means cheating religion. And there's a lot of cheating out there. A lot of cheating. Oh, follow this guru, follow that guru. This guru is God. There's famous guru. Passed away now, but a big afro haircut. This big, big afro haircut. And then his followers would say he was God. because he would perform some magic tricks, produce gold or produce ash or different things. And then people would say he was God, and he would not deny it. If someone says you're God, you have to say, maybe you should check again. Maybe you should check again, because as far as I'm concerned, I think you might be a little off target. But he never said that. They would say he's God, and he would accept that. So cheating, Paitavadharma, means cheating religion, cheating everyone. So Prabhupada says that so many people get cheated because they want to be cheated. They want false gods. But when you say, oh, here is Krishna, and then you give so much evidence why this is God, people say, no, I will not accept it. But there's so much evidence, books and books and books. Yeah, they argue. Even when you give so much evidence, they say, no, we do not accept. No. So the main point of this mantra, the first mantra is, Prabhupada says, this mantra offers a comparative study of vidya and avidya. Avidya is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. So any points so far? Okay. So now we will read mantra 10. Anyad evahur vidyaya, nyad ahur avidyaya, iti shushuma dhiranam, yenastad vichach, vichachak shire. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. So Prabhupada begins in the first paragraph, he says, quotes Bhagavad Gita 13, 8-12, one should culture knowledge in the following way. In the second paragraph, Prabhupada says, it gives a description of 18 items of knowledge. And Prabhupada gives he actually lists them, the 18 items of knowledge. This is from the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This is what knowledge is. So if you read those 18 items, you can see how enlightened you are. It's something you can read. Has anyone read these verses? You did? Good. Leading in? Yeah, try to read ahead. Try to be ahead. You have? Yeah, good. Yeah. So you can look at those verses again. The 18 items of knowledge again. This is someone who has knowledge. They will have those 18 items. There's something you can meditate on. You can meditate like on one every day for 18 days, and when you get to the end, then go back. So there are different lists which are given in different places. Chaitanya Charitamrita also describes 26 qualities of a devotee. So you can also memorize these, and in this way you can understand what it is we should become. Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita. All the way through the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, this is what you should be. And then in the next few verses, he'll say, this is what you should not be. That's good teaching. Right? When you're teaching someone, you say, this is what you should be. How do I understand what I should be? One way to understand it is, this is what you should not be. So you look at both. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives knowledge, and then he gives what is ignorance, the qualities of ignorance, the qualities of knowledge. So if we read these qualities and meditate on them, we can cultivate them, and then we can understand what is knowledge and what qualities we should be developing. From that list, 13 to 18, 8 to 12 from chapter 13, and also later in the Gita, is it beginning of the 16th chapter or the 17th chapter? Krishna gives a similar list. They're the qualities we chose for as we drive down the drive. beginning with humility and then peacefulness, simplicity, like that, generosity. As you go down, there's those 12 qualities. That's coming from these lists. These are the qualities we should imbibe. Right? We should cultivate. No? And if we cultivate those qualities, our life will become auspicious. And if we cultivate the qualities of ignorance, our life will become inauspicious. So Prabhupada says, these 18 items combine to form a gradual process by which real knowledge can be developed. But for these, all other methods are considered to be nescience. So if you cultivate those qualities, then you will become enlightened. Right? Otherwise, you'll go back down into the lower species. Prabhupada says in the third paragraph, Sri Isopanisad very strongly warns that the culture of nescience is different from that of knowledge. In the fourth paragraph, Prabhupada says, nationalism and chauvinism have developed in different parts of the world due to cultivation of nescience by the general people. No one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. Prabhupada's very poetic. What's it? Yeah, he puts everything into perspective. Yeah? Like one time he said to my guru in 1968, my guru was the temple commander. And he said that in this universe, there are so many planets. And there is one planet called Earth. And on Earth, there are so many countries. And there is one country called America. And in America, there are so many cities. And there's one city called Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, there are so many streets. And there is one street called Watsika Avenue. And in Watsika Avenue, there are so many houses. And one of those houses is a temple, the Hare Krishna temple. And in the Hare Krishna temple, there are so many devotees. But one devotee is the temple commander. And Prabhupada looked at him and said, and he thinks he is so important. We all think we're so important. But in comparison to this creation, you're insignificant. No one, if the earth blew up now, you wouldn't even know we existed. Just nothing. So this is knowledge. And based on ignorance, we have wars on this planet. The most notable war at the moment is Ukraine and Russia. And now they've put out an arrest warrant on Vladimir Putin. Arrest him if he steps outside of Russia. Grab him, arrest him. It's all ignorance. Why is Russia attacking Ukraine in the first place? Why is Ukraine fighting with Russia in the first place? This is ignorance. No. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Pandit Samadarshana, one who has spiritual knowledge sees equally. He doesn't see Russian and Ukrainian. He just sees Jivatma, spirit soul. Everyone is a Jiva, everyone is a soul. What is the difference? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, what's the difference between a Brahmana, a dog, a cow, an elephant, and a dog eater? What's the difference? There's no difference. Just the body is different, but the soul is the same. So one who is fighting based on some nationalism or chauvinism, Prabhupada says, it's just ignorance. I am superior to you. I'm better than you. So then everyone fights, but that's all ignorance. In paragraph 5, Prabhupada says, thanks to the culture of nescience, befooled men have created their own nations within the planets in order to more effectively grasp sense gratification for these few years. This is ultimately ridiculous. So everyone gets so fixated. People even die for their countries. Oh, let me die for my country. Or let me die for my cause. You know, I'll die to fight for this cause and that cause. It's all based on the body. The only cause we will die for is fighting for the Hare Krishna movement. One time I was in India and the Kazakhstan embassy was attacked. And you all know the story, so I'm not going to tell it again. We're all
The devotees would fight by the soldiers in this part of the Dharma, right?
if they're fighting for Krishna's army, not for a mundane army.
What about to protect other devotees?
Yeah. There was one devotee called Hladini Shakti, a Mataji. Have you heard of her? Yeah. Would have been, I think it was in the 80s, and it was in Africa, and they had a small temple, and there was about only a small amount of devotees, but some bad people came with guns. For whatever reason they came, and there was about 6 men who were devotees, and they lined them up against the wall to shoot them. And she ran at one of them and grabbed the gun, said, "No, you're not going to kill Krishna's devotees," and they shot her. So she's willing to die for, so to protect other devotees, or Krishna's cows, or we'll die for those reasons. Or the deities, if the deities are getting attacked.
With some of the devotees that were on the opposing army, they're actually devotees.
Bhishma and Drona,
Yeah.
but they chose the wrong side.
Well,
Be very careful which side you choose. At the beginning of the battle, whenever there's a battle like that, you're allowed to swap sides just before it begins. Yeah, you're allowed to do that. That's part of the code. So they should have moved across when they had the chance.
Why didn't they?
Bhishma didn't go across because he took a vow that he would always protect the Kuru throne. And Dronacharya was similar kind of thing. He was the guru of the Kurus, and he felt that loyalty was very powerful then.
Isn't that the guru of the Pandavas as well?
Yeah, but specifically, it's like they state sponsored, sponsored by the people who feed you, and then you can't walk away.
That's what he says, isn't it? Bhishma says that when he's lying on the bed of arrows, that because of taking their food, that his consciousness was polluted.
Yeah, it's an important point. Because Krishna approaches Karna before the battle and reveals to him the truth. He says, actually, you're the eldest of the Pandavas. He said, you're actually the sixth Pandava and you're the eldest. And he said, if you come now, then they will make you the king and they will serve you. And he said, I took a vow to Duryodhana I would always protect him. So vows are very powerful back then. But Krishna will allow us to break our material vows for his service. There's no reaction for doing that. And in the Bhagavad Gita, not the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahabharata, Krishna actually says to Yudhishthira, I want you to lie. So we can destroy Dronacharya. And he said to Yudhishthira, say that Ashwatthama is dead. And Yudhishthira had taken a vow that he would never lie. But Krishna asked him to lie. So it's a difficult thing because you've taken a vow never to lie and you've never lied, but God himself asked you to lie. And he had to make a choice. And he chose to follow his Dharma instead of Krishna's instruction. And it said that his chariot, the wheels of his chariot would not touch the ground. But after he disobeyed Krishna, his chariot touched the ground. So it means that for us, then we can give up worldly dharma for Krishna's service. That's higher. That's the principle. Okay. Where am I up to? So in paragraph 6, Prabhupada says, in this mantra, there is a hint that the instructions of the Vidya must be acquired from Adira. Adira is one who is not disturbed by material illusion. No one can be undisturbed unless he is perfectly spiritually realized, at which time one neither hankers or laments for anything. So that's basically the essence of this particular verse. You have to learn from Adira. Adira means one who is sober, who is not bewildered by this world. And that's Prabhupada. That's the founder of the Hare Krishna movement. That's why we all follow him. That's why you go to any temple in the Hare Krishna movement, there's a picture of him or a statue of him, right? All over the world, 700 plus temples. Prabhupada is, because he's Dhira. Therefore, we follow his example because there is no defect. He is sober. The rest of us are bewildered by this energy, by this material world. But Prabhupada is not bewildered. That's why we follow him. We would give up our lives, actually, in Prabhupada's service because we understand he's the one person who is in this world is beyond defects, whereas so many other people are defective. Our gurus are also considered perfect in the sense that they perfectly follow, to the best of their ability, Prabhupada's instructions. So that also makes them perfect gurus. In paragraph 7, Prabhupada says, as long as the living souls manipulate the dead lumps of matter, the dead world appears to be a living world. The Dhiras are those who have come to know all these facts by hearing of them from superior authorities. The Dhiras realize this knowledge by following the regulative principles. So, why are they Dhira? You become Dhira by following someone else who is Dhira. Prabhupada followed his guru. His guru followed his guru. And by following the guru properly, perfectly, then you'll also become Dhira. You'll also become sober, disconnected from this world. How does that happen? By following the 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. If you can follow this, you will become Dhira. You'll become beyond the clutches of the material energy. That's why when we take initiation, we take those vows, because that will purify us of our material identification and liberate us to the spiritual platform. In paragraph 8, Prabhupada says, to follow the regulative principles, one must take shelter of a guru. The transcendental message and regulative principles come down from the guru to the disciple. One can become a Dhira only by submissively hearing the messages of Krishna. So what is the qualification of the guru? He follows Krishna's teachings. That's why Prabhupada called his Bhagavad Gita the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And Prabhupada says in the introduction, he said there are 600 versions of Bhagavad Gita in the world. Now there would be more. But only one changed the lives of so many people, created a revolution in their consciousness. No? The other versions don't do that. They just, they're nice and they're poetic and everything. But this one says, no, give up everything and surrender to Krishna, which is what Krishna says at the end. And Prabhupada delivers that perfectly. And so many thousands of people have done it. We just gave up everything. We surrendered to Krishna. Yeah. I remember going home when I was 19, saying to my mother, I'm becoming a Hare Krishna. Right? Giving up everything and just walking away. Right? And she said, no, you cannot do this. And I said, oh, you can come and visit me.
Hurry.
Yeah, that's it. The time has come. And actually, it's symbolic. You see all through our teachings with the pastime of Nityananda Prabhu and someone else we're reading about recently. You know, they turn their back on the material energy. All of us have to do that at some point in time. We just have to turn our back on everything in this material world. Krishna will test all of us. One day you just have to turn your back and walk away from your material attachments. One day you have to do it. So we all have to do that. Krishna will test us. Are you ready to walk away, to give up everything and to surrender to Krishna? Okay, any questions on mantra 10? Okay. So the last two mantras, one of them has described ignorance and false knowledge that bind us to this world. Mantra 10 described true knowledge. Now this mantra, mantra 11, describes how one must know the relative positions of material and spiritual knowledge to transcend the material energy and attain deathlessness. So that is mantra 11. Vidyam cha yas tadvedo bayam saha avidya mrityum tirtva vidya mritam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So we said this in the beginning. All through the Bhagavad Gita, all through the Bhagavatam, through the Upanishads, all through the Vedas, there is a description of the difference between ignorance and knowledge. You have to understand the difference. What is ignorance? What is knowledge? What is temporary? What is eternal? We have to learn to differentiate. No, there is another world. That world is real. This world is not real. No, this world is temporary. So something temporary is not real. I mean, it is real in the sense, yeah, this couch is real. It exists. But if you come back in 1,000 years, this couch won't be here. This building won't be here in 1,000 years. Right? So it's temporary. Right? Nothing will look the same here in 1,000 years. Right? The whole landscape will change in 1,000 years. So it is temporary. It's real, but it's temporary. So therefore, it's not true reality. So in the first paragraph of Mantra 11, Prabhupada says, since the creation of the material world, everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life. But the law of nature is so cruel that no one has been able to avoid death, old age, or disease, nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. So who has overcome birth, death, old age, and disease?
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus. That's one example. Who has overcome these things? No. Only someone who is self-realized. No one else can overcome these things. This nature of this material energy is that we're all subjugated. Just like, on the radio, sometimes you hear, I heard not so long ago, talking about overcoming death. But Prabhupada says the mortality rate since day one of creation is 100%. Everyone dies.
Isn't overcoming death more about though peacefully rather than like seriously no one really.
Well, some people are trying to preserve the body so they can live a long time or permanently. So yeah, some people
Overcoming death like mukti or liberation, being able to die in a peaceful way, like
yeah, even dying peacefully is not in the sense that it may not be peaceful, but your consciousness has to be fixed.
yeah.
Dira. Yeah, consciousness is fixed. Not so easy actually. What Kanambakanand Swami, my wife's guru, and Shruti and Vishnujan Prabhu's guru, he passed away recently, and I reflected on that a lot. since that happened 6 months ago or so. You know, Maharaj was a yogi because, you know, he didn't even take painkillers. You know, he's a yogi actually. Even Bhakti Tirtha Swami, who's another yogi, another Paramahamsa devotee, but he took painkillers. You know, and Kadambakana Maharaj didn't even take painkillers. That's how fixed he was. That's how fixed his consciousness was in devotional service, transcended the body. And Prabhupada was the same. Prabhupada would not take painkillers. And Prabhupada actually said in the final weeks, he said, if I go unconscious, if I become unconscious, do not take me to hospital under any circumstances. And he said, if they want to inject me with something, he said, do not allow them. Right? Prabhupada said that. I mean, that's extraordinary to have that, the consciousness that fixed. So it's not that death may not be peaceful. It could be, but it may not be. But the consciousness just remains fixed on Krishna.
I guess what I meant was maybe like, you know, having that peaceful mind and knowing that knowing the next life, you know, rather than
That will be the test. That will be the test. You know, how scared we are at the time of death means how much faith we have that we're going to Krishna or not. Like also one of our gurus who's on the front of our Care for Cows pamphlet, you know, Venu Prabhu, he was the same, you know, fearless at death. There's some exalted devotees who are like that and don't have any fear of death. Right? All of us will be tested. It's easy to talk about it, but not everyone is that well prepared. But there's some devotees who are so exalted, they're not fearful at the time of death. So, in the 5th paragraph, Prabhupada says, Sri Isopanisad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. So one who has knowledge, he doesn't have faith in this world. Because you can't put your faith in this world because it will let you down. The Bhagavatam says everything in this world, every relationship we have in this world is fallible. You can't rely on anything in this world. Even the example of in the Bhagavatam, in the 6th canto of Ajamil. Ajamil was calling out to his son, Narayana, at the time of death. Protect me, Narayana. Calling out to his child. His child couldn't do anything. But fortunately, Narayana is also a name of God. So because he was chanting the name of God, then he went closer to Krishna. So, do not put your faith in something which is fallible in this world. All the relationship in this world will fail us. Fail us in the sense they'll all be taken away. At the time of death, you'll only have one thing. That is Krishna, if you're attached to him. Then Prabhupada says in paragraph 6, to become happy in this life and attain a permanent blissful life, after leaving this material body, one must take to the sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. So how do we attain shelter in this world, Ashraya? Through Prabhupada's books.
Lotus feet of the spiritual master.
Yeah, lotus feet of the spiritual master. And later in that Guru Vandana prayer, it says Guru Vakya Padma, Guru Mukhya Padma Vakya. We attain shelter by the words coming from the Guru's mouth, his instructions. Prabhupada actually said his books are better than him. Prabhupada said that. His books are better than me. Why? Because Prabhupada said the best of me is in the books. Yeah, and they're permanent. You know, we keep Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada's physically not here with us, but his books are still here. He speaks to us all the time. You know, whenever I read Prabhupada's books, you know, many times you feel like Prabhupada is speaking directly to you. You know, something's going on in your life right at that moment. It's like Prabhupada's speaking directly to you. You know, this shows that his books are still alive. In paragraph 7, Prabhupada says, intelligent living beings take note of material miseries and engage themselves in the culture of Vijja. So in the Quran, it says, if you don't believe in God, just open your eyes. Just look around you. You know, if you've got faith in this world after witnessing it all, then you're a fool. You know, everyone's just fighting. You know, like I was driving down the road today and there's a beautiful eagle in the air. And, you know, I was looking at him. It's actually an auspicious sign. You know, the eagles, when they fly around, it's auspicious. But then the magpies were attacking him. So where's the peace? You know, he's just flying and he's ready to swoop down and kill something. Magpies are trying to kill him. It's like everyone's just fighting in this material world. So if you're optimistic after seeing all that, then you're just a fool. You know, a materialist will say, oh, it's so beautiful here. Let me become an eagle. But someone who's intelligent will understand the actual nature of this world. In paragraph 12, Prabhupada says, the culture of Vijja is most perfectly summarized in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.14. Devotees should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the Lord. Therefore, all classes of men are encouraged to learn the art of transcendental devotional service to the Lord. So that is the essence of spiritual life. Learn from these books that the essence of life is to serve Krishna. And then do it. Don't do it theoretically, but actually do something about it. Right? Don't just read the books and say, oh, we should all serve Krishna. No, actually do something. You know, that example I think I gave a few weeks ago of one of Prabhupada's disciples. Prabhupada was walking in the gate and he was chanting verses in glorification of Prabhupada. We've met your divine grace by the will of providence, and did this 3 days in a row. On the third day, Prabhupada put his cane down. He said, pick up the rubbish. Do something practical. Like the other day on that kids retreat, I saw one of the kids, you know, there's some rubbish on the ground. He picked it up and put it in the bin. And most of the kids were just running around. I said, oh, good boy. You know, that's good. That's what Krishna is looking for. Krishna sees these things. Don't just, you know, read the books and think about it. Actually do something for Krishna. Do something practical. So we'll stop there. Are there any questions or comments on anything? Oh.
So how are we to understand then, like reading and like about how Bhakti-Santa Thakur left his body fighting between his disciples? How do we understand that as well in terms of like the contrast in the material world? We see you were just saying that people in the sky and the birds are fighting, everyone else is fighting, but even so-called, not even so-called, but you know, spiritual people also quarrel, I think.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, the question is, Maniguru Prabhu was saying that in the Leelamrita, when Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur left, there was fighting between his disciples. Prabhupada actually said one time, he said, my guru left the world dissatisfied. And then Prabhupada said, but I am not. He said, I am satisfied. And he said, at least maintain what I've begun. And I was saying to one devotee the other day, I mean, how happy would Prabhupada be? Well, he's gone, you know, it's so big now. And then, so the question is, you know, even amongst devotees, sometimes we see fighting. That's not very good. That's not very good. You know, the good thing about Melbourne, the Melbourne community is there's not a lot of fighting, not a lot of politics. You know, it's not absent. It's not big. You know, it's not like other places. Yeah, sometimes we might see in ISKCON, sometimes it's big quarrels or something, but we don't see it a lot in our community. So, yeah, if it's there, it's not very good. It's material consciousness. If devotees can't get along, there's problems.
Some of this opposites, what do they call it, Korean month? So they actually.
Yeah, they couldn't work together. So they kind of all like ISKCON's got temples all over the world, but we're one movement. And we try to work together.
We went to one of their temples.
Yeah.
Korean month temple.
Yeah, in Mayapur, we went to a few Yeah.
It was nice.
nice temples. But they don't always all cooperate together. Imagine if they all work together. You know, how much you get done. So
It's true.
Prabhupada didn't want us to all break off. He wanted us to stay together. I mean, we're, you know, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and the others, like we're separate. But, you know, if push comes to shove, we'll all unite. That should be the spirit. Yeah. I was in India one time and all the devotees united when the temple was attacked in Kazakhstan. And you get a feeling that we're part of something. You know, there's 1,000 devotees that you've never met. I didn't know most of them. But, you know, we all felt like brothers and sisters. We're all marching. And, you know, I got the feeling, you know, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the day, you know, when we're going to die. Well, then I was completely light, liberated. And I thought, you know, these are my brothers, these are my sisters. You know, we've got our generals there. Bhakti, Bibi Govinda Maharaj was there, and Burujan Prabhu and Satchidananda Swami. And they're saying, okay, march in. I was ready. Let's go. We'll march in. So, you know, we're part of that. We're part of that movement. So it should be like that. We should not be fighting. That's not very good.
Yes, it was more or less question of if we see that, is how to mitigate that, or what is that underlying factor, like we can see with materialists when they fight, understand that it's very bodily consciousness. They basically think they are the body line. We see devotees fighting.
Yeah.
You know, if
It's-
it's not the purpose for ISKCON is to service of Krishna, always remember Krishna and forgive him.
Mm.
So there has to be some
Yeah.
friction.
Yeah. So if we see the devotees fighting, it just means bodily consciousness. That's all. You know, just means they're no better than materialists. It's all the same. It's just Maya. Just because, you know, like I went to one temple many years ago. Now I didn't stay there for long, but you know, someone told me and said, "Oh, the South Indian devotees don't get along with the North Indian devotees." Like, what's that? Doesn't even make sense. That means you haven't even understood the first teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. You're not the body, you know. Whereas in, you know, the Melbourne temple, we don't, you don't hear those things. Sometimes you hear a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but nothing serious. And if I ever hear it, like with devotees I know, I call them in straight away. Because I have heard a few times, like devotees who are dear to me not getting along. I say, come on, well, let's have a talk. Get them together and say, what's going on here? You know. So, any other questions or?
When you were talking on Mantra 9 about how people mistaking themselves as God, and you were saying about how, you know, because we're under illusion, how can we possibly be God? Yet Krishna is affected by Yoga Maya so that he can play out his pastimes. Does that mean that during those times, Krishna is aware of the effect of Yoga Maya? Like,
He is and he isn't. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna is Sarvagya and Mokdata. Sarvagya means he knows everything. Mokdata means he forgets it all. He can do them both simultaneously.
So could people not use that as an argument to be like, oh, you know, I'm doing.
Yeah, but then you have to do what Krishna did in chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, it's a bit trickier.
Yeah.
It's easy to speak it, but not.
Yeah, shows you universal form. Yeah, and then sometimes, you know, we challenge someone, oh, you say your God shows you universal form. They say, you don't have the eyes to see. And then give me the eyes as well. Let me see. So, hey, look, we don't care what these people say. I was in Varshana a few years ago and Kalambakanan Swami was leading a kirtan, and there was one lady. She was obviously some sort of guru because there were people with her and they're following her, and you see they were attracted to her. And she started like rolling on the ground and doing all these silly things. And Kalambakanan Swami looked at her. She said, "Go and kick her in the head." None of us did it, but the point is, don't cheat people. Were you there when that happened? Oh no, you weren't there. Yeah, Murray said, "Go and kick her in the head." Like that. We wouldn't do it, but don't cheat people. If someone's a cheating guru, then kick them in the head
So boots on.
with boots on.
The right place.
Yeah, there's more pastimes that we could tell Prabhupada said things and like that. So, but the point is, don't cheat. Don't cheat. Any other questions or comments?
Keshava, the Ishnavaya, is that mantra 1?
Ishabasha, yeah. That's mantra 1.
And what's the other one you were saying?
The one before it, the invocation.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Yeah, so some of the devotees have memorized it already. So yeah, your exam will be soon. So the homework for next week will be mantras 12 to 14, which will speak about comparing worship of the absolute truth to the relative. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Babu.
Haribol.
Haribol.
Haribo.
See you next week. Haribol.
Haribol.